Probably have to come off mute first. Hello, good evening, good evening. So glad to be with you guys today. My name is Brandy Armstrong. I'm with Keller Williams Metro Atlanta in the Decatur office. Been in the business for a little while now, and I'm pleased to bring my friend, my good friend now, Chandra Winford, who is with Contour Mortgage, along for the ride today, because I realize I can give you some information, but the biggest part really is how do I get qualified? And I wanted to make sure I brought in a great resource that was very, very open to helping. She's gotten a lot of my clients through the process without a lot of bumps and bruises. So yes, definitely glad to be here. We have a presentation that we'll go through just quickly. Feel free to, open up, do any chats, do the chats in there. Use your chat, to communicate with us if you have questions, or just, simply raise your hand, come off mute, and we'll be glad to help you out there. This is an open forum. It's really discussion. We're going to present a lot of information, but I will share this with Krista after the fact so that you'll have it as a resource if you need it. Okay. Just a little bit about me. I'm a semi-Atlanta native. I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, but I've been here long enough to be a native. I remember when Wesley Chapel in 285 was like the furthest you could possibly ever go, and Conyers was farmland. So I go back a little while. I actually went to the Avondale High School here in DeKalb County, Georgia State University, Clayton State University, and the University of Phoenix. I'm a member of St. Philip AME, grew up here in Decatur. I'm also a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Decatur Alumnae chapter. That's how I got connected with Krista. My chapter is doing some service with Aid Atlanta. And one of my chapter members reached out and said, hey, they want to get some information on home buying. Brandy, can you help? And of course I said yes and answered the call. I'm a member of the DeKalb Board of Realtors, and there's my contact information. Chandra, you want to give a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Chandra Winford. I am a loan officer with Contour Mortgage. My background is in the financial industry, and then I've been almost 3 years now. But because I was already helping people in the area of finances, it was an easy transition for me. Because I had already helped people with getting their credit and finances together to be able to qualify. And now I just move one step further to not only helping them to qualify, but now helping them to actually get the loan. So I'm definitely into financial literacy and looking to, I believe in education. So I like to educate you, to give you information so that we can make your process smoother. And so that for me, owning a home is not if, but it's when. And of course, we'll give you the steps that you need to take to prepare so that you can become a homeowner.
Awesome.
That's right.
So of course we can give you all the information possible, but I'm sure you already had some burning questions. If you can go ahead and put those questions into the chat, and we'll make sure that if we don't catch them by the time we get to the end of our presentation, we'll catch them at the end and answer your specific questions. And if you have questions along the way, just like I said, raise your hand, come off mute to say, hey, I got a question, and we'll go ahead and address it then. So go ahead and use that little chat. What we'll cover today are a couple of things. For me, it'll be fears and facts about buying a home, realities of our market right now, the 6 steps that most people would say are essential to buying a home, financing, and then of course, next steps. Just a few things that people think about, and they say, they always say faith over fear at my church. So you got to have more faith than you have fear. Fear is going to be there. Fear can be a motivator, but you got to know what the truth is. So what I'm going to do is go through a few of the things that people say. I can't afford to buy a home right now. Well, you really don't know until you talk to somebody like Chandra, so she can give you the real deal, what's out there. Does it involve a credit pool? Yes. Yes, and yes, to get the definitive answer. Can she give you some generics before then? Yes, but it's not a guarantee until they actually pull your information. A lot of people say, I should wait until the market gets better. Oh, it's going to burst. The market is going to burst and blah, 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 blah. Nobody can predict the future, and there's never a bad time to buy the home for you and your family. If that's what you need to do the best thing for you at the time. that you are looking and considering it. People say all the time, I don't have money for a down payment. There are a lot of down payment options available to you here in Atlanta. There are so many options. If you go to Invest Atlanta, Chandra can give you all that information as well as to the programs they work with. Other people say, I can't afford to buy my dream home. Well, you can't get to your dream home until you buy your first home, because most people don't buy their dream home as their first home. The first home is what we generally consider a starter. Just like, you know, you get your first car, it's probably not the best. It's maybe an A to B, but it's not that dream Lexus or Mercedes or McLaren, no matter how high you want to go. I don't know what your thoughts are there. Tesla in these gas challenging times. Nobody can really say that until you actually go through the process with the first one. Once you get that first one done, it gets a little bit easier because you kind of know what to expect. I can't afford to buy a home because my credit isn't very good. I got student loans. Child, I got them too. I got them until the cows come home. But this is my second home purchase that I made with those same student loans. No, the balances weren't the same from the first to the second, but there are always ways to accomplish what you want to do if you balance it out. And Chandra will give you some great tips on that. I should wait until I'm certain about my future. Well, you don't have to be married to get a home. You don't have to be partnered. You don't have to have children. You don't have to not have children. Like I said, the time is right when you feel the time is right. The biggest thing that most people will tell you, most realtors will tell you, is that you're going to pay a mortgage. The question is, are you going to pay your mortgage or your landlord's mortgage? That's the biggest thing. Might as well pay for yourself, right? Buying a home seems way too complicated. Okay, nothing in life that's worth having is easy, but it can be done. You're not going to die from buying a house. I mean, yes, it's stressful, but people like Chandra and myself, we're the ones that are going to bear the brunt of that stress. You can call, my clients will tell you all the time after they get through the process, oh, I thought I was never going to get here, Brandy. Remember, I was stressing about this. I said, yeah, remember you stressed and I told you, don't worry about it. I'll tell you when it's something to stress about, but that's not it right there. You get a lot of those comments from a good realtor. I should pay off my student loan debt before buying a home. Student loan debt does not prevent you from buying a home. Student loan debt does not prevent you from buying a home. There are ways around it. So we'll talk through that as well. Why should you buy now? Mortgage rates are at an all-time low. Chandra's company, I think Chandra was telling me that their low rate right now is what, Chandra, that you've seen?
3.25. 3.25.
That's dependent on your credit and what you look like.
Correct.
So just because a company says, hey, our rates are at 3.25, that does not mean it's for you. It's just like on those ads for buying a car where they have that little fine print at the bottom. It says for well-qualified buyers, blah, 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 all that stuff. I can't read that fast or say it that fast, but it depends on what your financial status is. But if you're in great shape, have A1 credit, that's not me. But if you did have A1 credit, that's the way that you will be offered. And of course, home ownership is an equity buildup. It's an investment. You can use it to appreciate value in the home and use that value for equity for other things. And then you have this actual just sense of owning something besides your car or your furniture, or, you know, whatever you have something that you can allow yourself to build wealth with. Historically, let me move this. I'm sorry, I can't see it on my end. Let me just move this right quick. So principal and interest. Principal is the amount that you are actually borrowing to pay for your asset, your home. Interest is the amount of money that the lender is going to charge you over the life of that loan. So did I get that right, Chandra? I want to make sure I said that correctly.
Yes, you did.
Awesome. I always have to do a little check because I might know a lot, but I still want to make sure I'm giving the right information. Today, interest is about 15.2%. Historically, it's been about 21.6%. What that means is that's how much you're going to actually pay for your cost of your loan. What's the difference in owning versus renting? Okay, so in Atlanta, if you were to get a home,
Brandy, you went on mute.
We can't hear you, Brandy.
I don't know how I muted myself. I just minimized the screen. I was like, I just want to minimize. I just want to be able to just see me or nobody. Okay, so like I was saying, if you purchase a home for $250 and $1,200 a month is your mortgage that you're paying, over 30 years you would pay $435,000 for that loan at an average interest rate. You're going to own an asset that grows in value well over that amount. Versus if you're renting, remember I said you're going to pay your mortgage or you're going to pay your landlord's mortgage. You're going to pay that same $1,200 to the landlord's mortgage. Over 30 years, you're going to pay that $432,000 towards somebody else's mortgage when you could have had an asset. So there is a benefit to owning versus renting. Why hold off on buying? There are some reasons why people will hold off. If you're changing jobs, meaning entire different whole industry, going from being a nurse to a firefighter, that's a big change. If you stay in the same industry, meaning you went from company to company, say you went from AT&T to T-Mobile, that's not necessarily a job change in the financial world. The other reasons why people hold off is because their credit score is not where it needs to be, so they can get the best rate or they can qualify at all, or they don't have the money for down payment. Other reasons why, they say it's too expensive. They're house poor, meaning that they can only afford rent right now, so they can't afford rent plus all of the other things that come along with home ownership, utilities, which you still pay with rent, but insurance, upkeep, maintenance, things like that. And then with short-term, they just want short-term ownership. They're not going to get any equity. They're not going to get any appreciation for value in that actual asset because, again, it's not yours. It's the landlord's asset. In our market here in Metro Atlanta, this is Metro Atlanta, not just the 9 counties. This is more like 15 to 20 counties that they look at now for the metro area. The average home price is $390,000. That sounds like a lot. And it is in some cases, but that doesn't mean that every house on the market is $390,000. That's just the average. Right now, we're looking at interest rates around 3.25 for a 30-year loan. And right now, in almost everywhere in the country, except for maybe 2 places, one is in Arizona, and I think the other one's in Nevada or something like that, it is a seller's market. And what that means is there are more people in the marketplace to buy homes than there are available homes out there to buy, right? So it used to be just maybe 5 years ago, you could go out and do a search on the Keller Williams site. I'm not going to say the Z word because that's our competitor, sort of, kind of. Right? And search for homes in Atlanta, you would come up with at least 10,000 listings. Right now, if I did a search on our MLS, I'd probably come up with less than about 1,500 in the metro area at any given time. So it is definitely a seller's market, and just simple economics, just like we're seeing with the gas shortage. It really wasn't a shortage. It was only because there was a lot of demand at a quick period of time and they couldn't replenish that supply in time. That's why prices went up. That's the same thing that's happening in the housing market, but just over a longer period of time. Any questions? I know I said so far a lot of stuff. All right, so we'll get into what the steps are to home ownership. Number 1, hire an agent. Doesn't cost anything to work with me. Agents get paid at closing. Agents get paid at closing. We do not get paid to open doors and things like that by the person. If any agent tells you you have to pay them before they open up a home for you, please report them to the Georgia Real Estate Commission, because that is not how we operate in business. It does not cost anything to engage with an agent, but we do want you to actually be ready and committed to go through the process. The second step of that commitment is to secure your pre-approval. That's where my lovely friend Chandra comes in, right? We want to talk to a lender so we get to know what your purchase power is. There's no sense in saying, I'm gonna go look at houses and I saw this house and I don't even know how much it costs, but I want to go see it. Most of your real estate agents in this day and age and this time, especially with gas as it is, are gonna say, have you been pre-approved with the lender? It's not to put you off. It's not to deter you or anything like that. It's just to want to make sure that you don't get into a situation where you're going to look at a house and you fall in love with this house and you really, really want it, and you've got all your eggs in this basket, and then you realize, oh, I can't even afford it. It's nothing worse than that kind of remorse. So that's what we're really trying to avoid, is to get you getting you into a situation where you want something that you're not going to be able to get. That's just not how real estate works. We don't want that to happen. We want to match you. That's what we are, matchmakers. We're matching you with what you need and what you can afford to you. Okay? After we get that pre-approval, we have to have a pre-approval anyway, because once you find this great home, your step 4 is to make an offer. In the state of Georgia, you cannot make an offer without a pre-approval letter from a lender. Okay, or proof of funds if you're paying cash. Like if you go and hit that lottery that you're going to share with me this weekend, Powerball and Mega Millions, just hit me off with a small million. That's all I ask. That's just a small million. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding, but really, if you want to donate, I'm open. But you can pay with cash as well. If you have those funds available, but you have to have proof of funds, meaning you have to show a bank statement or a letter from the bank that shows that you have this balance, you have full access to it, and it's at your wherewithal to be able to spend it however you'd like. Of course, you're going to get a home inspection done and then negotiate repairs. And then number 6 is happy times. We're going to close and be a homeowner. You can always use my Keller Williams app to start this process, whether you're pre-approved or not. Simply go to this link. If you go to this link, it's going to go ahead and help you download it from the Google Play Store or the Apple iStore. That's not what it's called, but the Apple iPhone store, the App Store on the Apple. I can't even get it out today. And you wouldn't believe that I'm an IT consultant in my other life. But yeah, so if you go ahead and use that link, it'll download to my Keller Williams app, and you can search and look for stuff. Doesn't cost anything, free to do. Some people just love to see what's out there and wish upon a star. I do it a lot too, just to see what's out there. So no worries there. So in step 1, you're hiring your agent. That's when you talk to good old me. This is me and my little showing jacket. Every time I go out, I have this showing jacket on in the winter. I got to get something for the summertime. But when I have that on, that's my client's idea that we know we're in showing mode. We are not out here playing. We want to look at this house, evaluate what it is, and see if this is going to be a match for you. So this is my serious showing jacket that you see me in my little car. What the agent is supposed to do basically is be your matchmaker. We want to educate you about the market, figure out what your needs and wants are, and look for homes that fit that criteria. And then we coordinate the work of professionals. Say if you have to get inspection done, I'll give you a list of preferred inspectors. If you need to get some quotes done for work after you purchase, GCs or anything like that, we'll work with you on that kind of stuff. My job is to negotiate on your behalf. I am here to help you as a realtor on the buy side get the house that you want within the terms you can afford with the things that you want, so that you and your family are happy. And of course, I'm a problem solver. As typically things come up all the time. No, I haven't seen everything. There are veteran realtors that have been in the business for 20 plus years, and they still have new stuff that comes up every day. So just understand that, yeah, you're gonna have some problems. Like they say in the song, there will be problems. I'm not a singer, but there will be problems. Just be ready to address them with your agent. In order to work with the agent, you have to do a buyer's agreement. Basically, this is saying that you agree to work with me. As a realtor, we have a code of ethics that we follow. We do not go and steal other people's clients. So if you are already working with an agent and you've signed an agreement, then I as a realtor cannot come and talk to you or try and get you to work with me. It confirms that you are exclusively my person. I'm yours, you are mine, we are in this together, okay? When to hire your agent? This is a good little checklist to start. Of course, you want to start number 1 working with branding. That's just because I'm vain like that. I want you to start working with me, of course, but find a realtor that you're comfortable with, that you have a rapport with. They do need to know a lot of your personal details. So that person and your lender are going to ask you some in-depth questions. that you may or may not have been asked before. You may not be comfortable with giving the information to just anybody. So that's why you need to interview these people and talk to them and see if you are a good fit, because everybody's not a good personality fit. That's just how it is. And there are enough agents in the state of Georgia that can help you get through this process. If I'm not the person that you want to work with, I can certainly refer you out to someone else that you may feel a little bit more comfortable with. I have no problem with that. I am not money hungry like that. I just really want people to get to a wealth building status. And in my opinion, that way is through real estate. We want to go ahead and get your finances in order. You want to go ahead and get that pre-approval with Chandra. Okay, shameless plug. And then that's when we start. You got that pre-approval, you'll get under contract, hopefully, close on your new home, move into your new home, and then you're gonna have that last lease payment, amen? The last one, and then you become a homeowner. Generally, when you close on your home, you don't even pay a note for another month, just because they have to take so much time to get things set up. So it's kind of like a little small benefit to you. You can act like it's special for you, but it's really not. It's really a timeline thing to get everybody set up on their places. But generally, you don't have to pay that the first month that you move in. All righty, and then we have the second step is to secure pre-approved financing. This is when I'm gonna let Ms. Chandra go with her parts. And she'll talk about pre-approvals versus pre-quals, and then what some things are that Contour looks for in approving you as a buyer. Chandra.
Yes. So the first thing is when a client comes to me, I like to find a little more information about you because everybody's at a different level. So I ask, have you owned before? Are you a first-time home buyer? So I know what level of information you already have and what information you may need from me. Because a first-time home buyer may need more information than somebody that's already been through the process. But I like to have that conversation up front. And I'm not the type of lender that, send you a link and say, fill out the application and go. I am the type of lender where I like to have a conversation with you first, make sure you feel comfortable, explain the process, answer all your questions, give you information, and then I kind of do a over the phone kind of pre-qualification just to make sure I feel like you're ready before I say, okay, let's move to the next step and have you complete the application. So once we kind of went through that preliminary conversation, I feel comfortable, you feel comfortable, all your questions are answered, then I will send you a link to complete the application. Once the application is completed, I will review the application. If I have questions, follow up, things I'm not sure, we'll do that. Then at that time, I will go through the process of pre-running your credit. And if there are any concerns that come up on your credit, I will definitely call and discuss that with you. And I will give you a plan of action of what things you need to do to get your credit, corrected so that you can be in a position to qualify. At that point, the ball is back in your court to do what needs to be done so that you can qualify. Because like I said in the beginning, it's not if, but it's when. And so if it's not now, it may be later, but you don't know until you get to that stage. So once we do that, then I go ahead and give you the pre-qualification. So the pre-qualification, we run you through an automated system based upon the information that you put into the application that lets us know if we're able to approve you. If we are able to approve you, at that point, I call you. I send you a loan estimate, go over the numbers with you to make sure you feel comfortable, because it's very important that you know how much cash you have to bring to the table. Because when the agent goes out there and you see what you like, especially in this market, you don't have time to think, you got to move quick. And we can't be, oh, we're trying to get the money together. No, you got to know where the money's coming from, and you pretty much have to have it together at that stage. And then at that point, I will send you and your agent a welcome and a pre-qualification letter. At that point, I will emphasize to you, especially in this market, while you're looking with your agent, let's go ahead and get all of your documents in so that we can go ahead and get your file before the underwriter. Because the pre-qualification just means I ran you through an automated system. but the underwriter has the final say. It's the underwriter that looks at that approval that I got through the automated system and now checks the box to say yes, or they probe or they ask questions, which the computer is not going to do that. So I encourage all of my buyers to go to the next step. Go ahead and send me your documents, which is usually your driver's license, 2 months, your last 2 months of bank statements, the last 30 days of pay stubs, and the last 2 years of W-2s. If you have had any bankruptcies or foreclosures, we need information about that. And also, if you're using your 401k, then we would need statements from that as well. So those are the typical documents that you need. If you're getting child support, we would need verification of that. If you were married and divorced, we need copies of the divorce. So those are the type of paperwork that we need. But once we get all that paperwork, we submit it to the underwriter, then the underwriter will give you a pre-approval. So the advantages to a pre-approval is that if your agent makes an offer on your behalf and say, my client has already been pre-approved by the underwriter, then that means you don't have to have a financing contingency because, and Brandy didn't really talk about that, but a finance contingency, basically when you make an offer to kind of protect your earnest money, the agent puts in certain contingencies to protect that earnest money, which is the upfront money that you put up front to let the seller know that you're serious and you want this property. Well, there are certain time points that is put in the contract that you can say, I want to walk away and get your money back. But once you pass those dates, then your money is in jeopardy of being lost. And so the agent puts in those time frames. And so by being a person that's already been pre-approval, that's one less contingency you have to put in because your file has already been looked at and the underwriter has already said you're approved for credit. We're just waiting on you to find a house. And then once you find a house, they will do an appraisal and they will do the title search on the property just to make sure there's no liens and things of that sort. That puts you at an advantage versus someone that does not. But just because you get that, the key thing that we always focus is make sure that you don't go and run up your credit, so even though the underwriter has already looked at it, once you find that property, they will ask for updated bank statements to make sure you still have the funds. They will do kind of a soft look at your credit to make sure you didn't open up any more new credit, and just to make sure your financial picture, you're still working, you haven't lost your job or your hours haven't been reduced. So they will do, a soft check, but pretty much you're already approved for credit. So that's kind of the difference between the two. And then once I kind of go through the pre-qual, I kind of give you back to Brandy, but I'm still working with you to get the pre-approval. Once you get the pre-approval, you're all Brandy's until you guys get that contract. Then you come back to me. Brandy.
Thanks so much, Chandra. Awesome. Any questions before we go through? I know that was a lot of stuff to digest. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh, sure. Come on, Chris.
So,
Yes.
I'm always trying to help people find different ways to be able to, get a house or something like that. So I think for me, the Georgia Dream Home Ownership Program was something that I learned about some years ago, as well as NACA, and wasn't sure like which one would be best, but I saw the Georgia Dream Home Ownership had like an emergency thing where they were offering, I think, up to $15,000 or $20,000 in down payment assistance and closing costs. And I think normally it might be $7,000 or $5,000 that they would give, but they still had money, even though they don't tell people they still have that emergency assistance fund. They do have the money for it. However, when I tried to pre-qualify, it was the debt to income ratio that kind of knocked me down. Like the credit score was fine, but because of, student loans and then my income didn't quite meet up, the lender was like, I'm sorry, unfortunately at this time, you don't qualify. So how do I get around that? Like, what do I do to work towards being able to qualify?
Yeah, so basically, the first step that we look at is qualifying is going to be your credit score. So that's going to be the first thing. Every lender is maybe a little different, but in general, we're all usually around kind of the same kind of starting range. Some may be a little higher or lower than others. Pre-COVID, we started at low as a 580. But when COVID hit, all lenders kind of increased their guidelines. So now we're at a 600 minimum credit score to be able to qualify. If you're looking for down payment assistance, most down payment assistance program want you at a minimum of a 640. So that's kind of the credit. Once we get the credit, your credit score past that minimum, then we say, okay, the next step is we're going to look at your income. We're looking for 2 years of stable income, that we can look at a 2-year history to see that you've been working a job and your income has been stable. And that's why when Brandy mentioned earlier about changing careers, sometimes that could be detrimental to you, especially if, you know, like she said, you went from being a banker and now you're in construction. Well, those are totally 2 different jobs. And, you know, we don't know if you're used to sitting at the desk that now you're going to be okay with doing hard labor in the sun, you know, so they're going to look for at least 6 months in that position to say, okay, you know, and not, oh, I've only been here 1 month and now I want to qualify for that. Or if you see a big jump in salary because of the job that you change, if it's not in the same field, because, you know, we don't want to qualify you at a higher income and you've been working positions that are lower unless you show, oh, I went to school and I got training and now I'm coming out. So some of those things they look for on the income. And then they do the debt to income ratio. So the debt to income ratio, I'm just going to say at high level. And of course, you know, I'll give you more information, you know, when you're ready and when you come talk to me. But the debt to income ratio, basically you take your annual salary, and let's just, to keep it simple, let's say it's 24,000 and we divide that by 12. So that means you have $2,000 per month in income. So the debt to income ratio can vary depending, some of the down payment assistance program have limits of what your debt to income ratio can be. So you're going to get the most debt to income ratio when you have your own money. So, you know, I always tell people, you know, if your income is an issue, if you have your own money, you can go higher on your debt to income ratio normally than if you don't. And then the higher your score, the more you can go higher on your debt to income ratio than someone that's right there at the 600 versus somebody that may be at a 660. But we take that annual income, and normally on average, we say about 50% debt to income ratio. So in my example, if it's $2,000 per month, that means you have $1,000. And that $1,000 has to be used for all of your monthly debts according to your credit report, the minimum payment plus the house payment. So if your debt to income ratio is high, your options are you have to either increase your income or you got to reduce your debt, or you won't be able to qualify for as much house. And so, you know, those are kind of the factors that play in. So when it comes to the student loans, depending on your loan type determines how the student loans are handled. So most people qualify, or it's easier to qualify for FHA, which is the government loan, but the government loan is the strictest when it comes to the student loan. So it's 1% of the loan amount that you owe is included in that debt to income ratio. So if you have high student loans, a lot of time what happens is, because of that, you know, it's driving your debt to income ratio up. So it's not really leaving any money or very little money for you to qualify once they do that on top of whatever, you know, debts you may have, like a car note or a credit card. But the conventional loan is more lenient when it comes to the student loans. So for the conventional loan, but that loan is harder to qualify for. The credit score minimum is higher for that loan, and they look at your whole credit profile. So you definitely have to work on cleaning up your credit to be able to qualify for it. But once you can qualify for a conventional loan, if your student loans based upon your income, and you get something from the student loan, people say, hey, based upon my income, my student loan payment is 0, then we can count 0. If it says it's $20, then we can count $20. So whatever they say that is. So somebody that has a lot of student loans, it's usually, advantageous for them to work on their credit so that they can qualify for a conventional loan, where it could be based upon their income, what their student loan payment really is, versus that 1%, which may be taking their debt to income ratio too high and they're not able to qualify. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, because I think for me, like I went to private schools. I just graduated last weekend, and so like between DeVry and Mercer, I think student loan debt was over 70,000. It's below 80,000, but it's high,
Right,
And
right,
my credit score was great. My credit score hit over the 640 and everything. She pulled 3 different scores. They all met, but it was just that.
right.
But I wasn't in
But so
repayment status.
70,000, that's $700 is added into your debt to income ratio. So
Yeah.
that's probably what's putting you over. But based upon your income, what is your student loan payment? Do
Well,
you
that's
know,
the
or you
thing. I
haven't
just,
started paying yet?
I was still in grace period. They were still in deferment. They hadn't even come out of
Okay.
deferment yet. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you can still reach out to say, well, especially because did you have a job at the time?
Yeah.
So
But the
you
job
working?
was
So you
part-time and it
can.
moved to full-time. So it was like, yeah, there was a lot of fluctuations
Okay,
and yeah.
right, right. So once your job is kind of stable, you can go to the student loan people and say, hey, based upon my income, can you tell me what my student loan payment would be when I get out? And a lot of times they'll go ahead and give you that information to say, yes, it's deferred until then, but based upon your present income, when you have to start paying, this is what it's going to be. And as long as you can get a letter from them saying that, then we can use that amount to qualify you.
So that's something my degree was conferred in December. So I would have to do that now because you get that 6 months. So yeah, 6 months is up. So I need to go ahead and get on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we had another question in the chat. They wanted to know, with the competitive market now and it taking longer to find a house once you're approved, how long does the pre-approval last?
So the pre-approval lasts, well, basically 90 days is the time frame for your credit report. That after 90 days, we have to pull the credit again. So we say 90 days, not that you can't qualify. It just means that, we'll have to re-pull your credit again, and hopefully, your credit has been maintained. And, either way, we're going to ask for updated documents. So 90 days is kind of the time frame that you kind of get before, we have to pull your credit again. So that would be my answer to that. Is this me?
Thanks,
Brandy?
Chandra. I was going to hit that question a little bit later, but that's cool. We can talk about it now. One other thing that we wanted to make sure we talked about, Chandra, was understanding mortgage decisions. You touched on it a little bit, but we also have a slide here about the different financing types or mortgage loan types. I'm not sure which one you want to take first. If you want to start.
Well, let's go back to the down payment one. We can start with that one.
Perfect.
The one before this one. Okay. So down payment. So once again, that's going to be determined based upon your loan amount. So if you're doing, and there's more loans than what I'm saying, but I'm giving the two that most people use, which is the FHA, which is considered the government loan, or Fannie Mae, which is considered the conventional loan. So the down payment on the government loan is 3.5% of the purchase price. So whatever the purchase price is, 3.5% of that is considered the down payment. Those are the funds that you have to pay down as your portion of investment, into the house purchase. There are down payment assistance programs out there, which we talked about. There's guidelines that you can use to help you to either totally cover it or to help cover some of it. But in addition, there's also closing costs. So, we used to be able to say, when it wasn't a seller's market, when it was a buyer's market, you can ask the seller to pay some of the closing costs to kind of help you out. But now that we're in a buyer's market, you're not seeing very much of that. So you have to have, not only the down payment, but you also have to be concerned about the closing costs. If you're doing the conventional loan, the down payment, there's two options. Based upon your income, you may be able to qualify for 3% down of the purchase price. That's kind of income based. Or the second option is 5% down. So it's either going to be 3 or 5% when it comes to the conventional loan. The 3% is capped based upon your income, and it's 80% of average median household for your area. So for us, it would be for Metro Atlanta area, which it's about 65, somewhere in there, 65,000, a little over, of what that is for the Atlanta market to be able to get the 3% down. If your income is over, you got to put the 5. Interest rates fluctuate. They vary every day. Of course, when we give you a loan estimate, we'll give you an interest rate, but we will tell you that we cannot lock the interest rate in until you get a contract. Once you get a purchase contract, then we can lock the interest rate in, to say, hey, this is what your interest rate is going to be, because we don't want to let it to float, because you're making financial decisions, and an interest rate change can make your payment go up, and we don't want to have that. So we lock the interest rate in once you get a contract. And then term, that just means most people, especially on the home loan, do 360 months, which is 30 years. But people that are in the market that own, that are looking to finance, sometimes get lower terms. They may do 15-year or 20-year or 10-year loans. So those kind of cover some of those terms. You want to go to the next slide? I kind of talked about the loan office. The only ones I didn't talk about was USDA, and USDA is rural areas. So it focused, so there's not a lot of within the Metro Atlanta area that kind of qualify, but on the USDA website, if you search USDA home loans, there is a website that you can go to and put in an address, and it'll tell you if it's in the USDA area. And they also have income guidelines. And with the USDA, it is 100% financing. So that means the down payment is included, but you still have closing costs. And then with the VA, that's a government loan. If you're military or veteran, with the VA, they do have 100% financing. So which means no down payment, but they do charge a funding fee with the VA. And I know if you have a disability through the VA, then the funding fee is potentially waived. So you would have to check that. And then, but you still have closing costs as well. So those are some of the, and then of course, cash, which a lot of investors, come to the table normally with cash. But hey, some people can have cash, you never know. When it comes to the mortgage, did you want me to cover that slide or no? Okay, when it comes to the mortgage payment, it's made up of your principal and your interest, which is determined by the loan amount, and it's determined by the interest rate. And then you have your taxes, and the taxes are going to vary depending on the property that you own. So we estimate the taxes in the estimate, but we can't really tell you what the tax is going to be until you find that house. Once you find that house, then we'll be able to say, okay, what are the taxes on this house? Because every house in every county is different. And then your insurance is the homeowner's insurance, which is also included in your monthly mortgage payment. And we estimate that as well. But when you find a house, we recommend that you get at least 2 quotes so you compare. You choose who you want to use for the homeowner's insurance and which you want to go with. But those are the different parts that make up your mortgage payment. So different than rent, where you're just paying one amount. You have the principal and interest is set. If we're doing fixed rate, which most lenders do fixed rate, but the taxes and the insurance can fluctuate because taxes go up, insurance goes up. So those are the 2 parts of your mortgage that may fluctuate, but the principal and the interest, if you do a fixed rate, they're fixed. Those 2 aren't going to change once you lock in your rate, but the taxes and insurance can.
Just one note on the taxes. In the state of Georgia, you will always pay county tax on every piece of property, no matter where it is in the entire state of Georgia. There is no unclaimed property in the state of Georgia anymore, or in the US for the most part. Somebody owns something. The other part that may happen is that if your property falls in a city, municipality, then you will pay, in addition to the county tax, you will pay the city tax. So for example, if you lived in East Atlanta, which would be a part of either Fulton or DeKalb County, right? You would pay those particular county, whichever county you're in, and then you would also pay that layer of city tax. So that's why when people say, oh, it's so expensive to live in the city, that's what they're talking about. Cities like Avondale Estates, Pine Lake, if you live in the actual city limits, Stonecrest that just popped up, South Fulton that just popped up, you have an additional layer of taxes on there. And of course, when you're working with your realtor can pull that information and find out what the last year or the current year's taxes are. Like right now, you would have already paid one installment on your taxes in the state of Georgia by April. The other one is due, I think, by October or September. So
and every county is different because some counties don't break it up. Some counties you just pay it all
one installment, correct?
At the end of the year.
Correct, correct. But we can always look and see what those items are. And this is just talking about what Chandra hit on already about your down payment, what it can vary from, and where you can get those funds from. Chandra, I don't know if you hit on that.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to side jobs or part-time jobs, a lot of people say, oh, I got a part-time job, can I count that income? Well, in order for us to count the income from the part-time or side jobs, you have to have 2-year history of working a full-time plus a part-time or side job. And even if it's seasonal, like you may do something, maybe let's just say at the Braves, whenever they come around every year, as long as you seasonally done it for 2 years, then we can count it. But if not, then we can't. But however, you can use those funds from that job to help come up with your down payment. We just can't use it to qualify you in your debt to income ratio. Savings is definitely, one of the major keys. So, I always tell people, because if when you get ready to purchase a home, go look online, like Brandy said, and see based upon the area that you like, find out how much the houses cost and, what you like, in your price range. And then you can calculate the 3.5%. So you can have a goal of what you need to save to be able to qualify for that. You can get a gift from parents or relatives. Normally when you get a gift, they have to show their bank statement to show that they have the funds available to be able to gift it to you. And then I always tell people, if you have a 401k, you can take funds out of the 401k to use towards your down payment. If you're a first-time home buyer, you will still pay the taxes on it, but you don't have to pay the penalty on up to $10,000 of the funds, as long as you purchase it, as long as you take it out when you use it. I think it's either 60 or 90-day window they give you from the time you take it out to use it to purchase your first home. Then you don't have to pay the penalty for taking it out early. You still have to pay the tax. So that's another option, because real estate is an investment as well.
Absolutely. And one thing that Chandra hit on was, okay, once you've gotten with Chandra and she's giving you that wonderful pre-approval letter, you cannot use your credit. You don't add credit. You don't purchase furniture. You don't go out and buy no new car. You don't do anything. You don't change your job. You stay in that job. No, I'm just kidding. I'm really serious. I've had some other realtors talk about how their deals completely blew up because they got to the week of the appraisal, and the client went to meet the realtor to do something, either get the appraisal report or do something different, get measurements or something, and the client pulled up in a brand new car with a drive-out tag, and the realtor just dropped and fell out. And because at that point, it probably was a credit blow up, and it was going to pretty much blow up the deal. And there's very little that can be done at that point if you've gone and made these changes. And of course, if you're saving for your down payment, don't be nipping off a little bit here and there and say, oh, I can go out to eat every day for the rest of the month. No, that's still taken away from that down payment money, because at the closing table, they want you to come up with that check. Actually, it's 3 days before. You have to send your funds in, what your down payment is, to the attorney, so that they can clear all the funds before the actual closing date or whatever. So can't be nickel and diming off of that. That's just not going to work. Not going to work for anybody. And Chandra will just blow up in her head and be like, it's gone.
Like, no.
Right. And I'll be sitting there like, oh my God, what now, Jesus? So the next step after you've gotten that lovely pre-approval is to find a home. Now that seems easy, but in this market, you have to know what you're looking for, and you have to be a little bit flexible right now, because like I said, it's a seller's market, and the inventory that's out there, it's just out there. There are a lot of houses where people have said, you know what? I'm not changing nothing. You're just gonna get this house as it is, and that's that. We're not changing anything. We're not fixing anything. We're not repairing anything. If you want the house, this is what you get. And so in that market, you need to know what things you can take on yourself or you're willing to take on yourself in time versus what's just not gonna work with your family. For example, a lot of people say, you know, they have this idea in their house of what they want their kitchen to look like and what they want their flooring to be. We want granite countertops. We want a certain backsplash. We want hardwood floors or solid surface floors. Well, what if you come up to the house that has the perfect bones, but it doesn't have granite? It has regular Formica countertops, and it has carpet instead of the hardwood or engineered laminated wood. Those are cosmetic things, really, from a realtor's perspective. But in your mind, you need to know, okay, so that means I'm gonna have to take this on after I purchase this house. Do I wanna, you know, go through the hassle of, not the hassle, the process of getting a general contractor to get these items done? Am I gonna be able to set aside the funds to go ahead and do that and make sure that it's done in a timely fashion? Do I have somebody to move my furniture when I get ready to install this new hardwood floor? Do I even know somebody to install the hardwood floor? Well, that's where your realtor comes in, because your realtor should have, you know, people who are able to do those kinds of things for you if you don't have those resources yourself. You need to learn about the market, as Chandra said. You know the areas of town that you're looking at. One thing that as a realtor we cannot discuss are the demographics, the meaning who lives where, whether it's safe or not. We can't speak on those kinds of things, because those are the kind of things that get you into what they call steering, meaning I'm going to steer you to a certain community based on what I think you'll be comfortable with, which means that historically there were areas of town in Atlanta where they didn't allow people of color to move. So real estate agents were steering them to other areas instead of where the people said that they wanted to live. And that's against federal law. It's a huge fine for it if it's proven. They've had plenty of people that have that get caught on it every day. It happens in lending, it happens in appraisals, it happens in home buying. It's all over. So that's something that we as realtors are really, really trying to make sure that we do not violate federal law and put ourselves and put you in a predicament where you're not getting the best possible quality experience in home buying. And then you need to, once you figure out the areas you like, you may want to consider some other areas and say, hey, I've never lived in Lawrenceville. I wonder if that'll work with my commute to my job or to my family, versus living in Decatur or Smyrna or South Fulton, wherever. Those are the kinds of things that you'll talk about with your realtor. I don't know why my slide is in here again about my page, but that's all right. Who's been looking at?
Hey, I know why it's in there again. Marketing.
Twice. I mean, I was trying to be shameless, but you'll have it later. So has anybody been looking at houses lately? Anybody? Just,
not since last year, December, but I was actually looking at rentals all over the place with different companies and looking at the price of the rentals. Oh my God, renting a house looks like
you
it's
might
more
as
than
well
a mortgage. Yeah, it was bad.
That is what we always say. That is what we always say. I got somebody in the chat. Not since last year, Miss Trayla. Okay, all right. I love the honesty. People be honest. I like that. So when looking at a house, it's a difference in what I as a realtor am looking at and what you're looking at.
It looks like somebody got their hand raised. Is it Kathy? Or she was raising her hands that she's been looking.
Kelly, you've
Is that
looked
what
too?
that was?
Okay, okay, cool, cool, cool.
Yes.
So most people, I'm sorry, Kathy, I didn't even see you there. Okay, thank you. Most people are looking at the layout, they look at the bells and whistles of the house, what the paint looks like, how close it is to their schools for their kids or where they work, and what features are in the house. Whereas I'm looking at how this home is going to compare based on what you said your family size is, what the value of this home is compared to others in the market, to see if it's really listed at the right price. What your potential resale value is, because you still need to know that this may not be your forever home. And if it's not, if situations change, excuse me, it's my job to be able to say, hey, this is a good deal right now, but if you're looking to live in this house for less than 5 years, this may not be the best option because of this, that, and the third. And then I also want to look at things like, what's the condition of the roof? How old is the HVAC? What kind of maintenance comes with it? If you're getting a pool, have you ever had a pool before? Do you know you need to now have a monthly pool maintenance thing, and then you have to have the pumps inspected annually? And then are there any structural concerns? Things like that you just don't see when you're looking at a house because you are just so in love with, oh, look at them countertops, girl, look at the kitchen. It's beautiful. It's got the dark cabinets I want with that gold brass looking fixtures, and it's an open concept because everybody wants open concept until they realize once you burn something, everything in the open concept got the smoke. I'm just saying that's the one downfall to open concept. It just happens. It just happens. Now, one thing I will say is that if you did get a chance to look in this market since COVID, you are very lucky, because one of the things that the real estate market, we as realtors never stopped working during COVID. The governor did say that we were essential to the marketplace because people need to have somewhere to live. And if they needed to move, they needed to move. Now, people weren't getting evicted, but we were able to still show houses. I had a whole showing kit with gloves, mask. I mean, I look like a NASA engineer sometimes going into some of the houses with my clients. And I did a lot of video walkthroughs with people so that they could be in the comfort of wherever they were, just like this on Zoom. And I would just walk through the house and point out whatever it was. But the one thing we couldn't do is the governor said you had to have a pre-approval letter before we went and took you out to look at a house. So that kind of reinforced, we don't have a lot of looky-loos or people who are not really serious about buying. And what it sounds like from a realtor is a waste of time if you're not pre-approved because you're not ready to buy. And again, we don't get paid until when? Closing. So who wants to just drive around and just be showing houses just to be showing them? Not I. Money around here. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so new construction versus resales. It used to be that you could look at a resale because you were going to get more house, so to speak, for your money than what you would in new construction. But in this seller's market, what I'm seeing is that, number one, in the resale market, meaning a home that's not brand new, someone else has lived there and they're selling it now. It's highly competitive. If you don't have a conventional finance type or cash, you're pretty much getting pushed out of that marketplace with resale. So that's forcing people into new construction. But also with COVID, just like everybody else's job shut down, construction shut down too. Building materials shut down as well. That caused a shortage of materials. Like right now, there's a lumber shortage. I don't know if you've been at Home Depot lately and looked at the price of lumber. One little sheet of plywood might be $70 when it used to be $9 for a sheet. All of that stuff is driving up the cost of new construction. So whereas it might have been a $200,000 house before, now it's $240,000 because of that increase in materials. And it's not just lumber. They had appliances because all of those factories, most of the appliances are made in China, where most of the virus started, and they had the big, huge sweeping outages and people not working and people dying, and they just haven't been able to ramp back up. So all building materials, windows, doors, appliances, lumber, all of that stuff was scarce. So again, law of supply and demand. When supply is low, demand is high, prices go up. So it's really, really pushing people who might have been in one price point qualified, but now all of a sudden they're no longer qualified because it got pushed up 40,000. They've had a couple of stories on the news lately around that with a couple of builders that have just automatically terminated the contract, although they were set to close, say, in August or July. Well, they came up with these price improvements, increases, and now the people can't qualify, and so they're stuck. Legally, there's not much you can do because most contracts are builder contracts that you write with new construction, and they write those provisions in there to say that the builder has the right to increase the price for whatever reason, acts of God, all that good stuff. So it's been a difficult market there, but right now that's where a lot of my FHA buyers are going, towards the new construction route, because they're just not being able to win offers in this market with all the constraints that are out there and everybody with these big pockets of money. I don't know where people are getting money from, but cash and
all these stimulus checks or something, right? PPP loans or something.
I don't know, cashed out on something, but they are coming up with money, and I'm like, what? So it's an option, but it is, but it's not. It just depends. Now, the pros to new construction is it's new, it's shiny, it still got the new car smell, so to speak. You get to pick your lot. You get to decide what the features are in the house for the most part. You get to choose your floor plan and how you like this versus that, and the color on the walls and stuff like that. But then again, you may not have amenities nearby. You don't necessarily have a firm closing date because they have to build it, right? And it's all dependent on weather and people's timelines, and construction is so busy right now. I wrote a contract for a couple in Conyers in December. We were initially scheduled or on schedule to close in August, maybe early September. Now it's been pushed out to October, maybe November. No fault of their own. It's just, that's how the timelines are changing. So that's a thing to consider as well, because if you're coming from a rental perspective into a house, that means you now have to extend your lease for those extra months until you close. So something to consider as well. Uh-oh. I keep jumping on. I think my mouse is a little sensitive today. I gotta fix that. All righty. Step 4 is making the offer and negotiating. I already told you that you absolutely have to have your pre-approval. You have to look at the price of what you're going to offer. Just because the house is listed at 200, that doesn't mean you're going to get it at 200. Right now, there are very few houses that you can say, if the house is listed at 200, you're going to offer 170 and expect to win the offer. Not going to happen in this market. Most things are going at full price or better. There are people who are bidding over the list price, and understanding that the lender is only going to lend you up to the appraisal amount, right? So that means if this house is listed at 200,000 and you bid 240 because you just want this house and you just love it, but this house only appraises for 220, then the house gets sold at 220. But the seller has to agree to lower the price to that 220 amount, or you agree as the purchaser to come up with that extra appraisal gap money, is what they call that, the $20,000 difference between the 220 and the 240 yourself. That is not something that you can finance with the lender. Okay?
Correct. And actually, it's the lower of the two, whichever is lower, the appraisal value or the sales value, because sometimes the appraisal will be higher. So we'll lend the lower of the two.
You also need to talk about what is going on with my little mouse. Talk about the terms, meaning you're going to address your financial contingencies, your due diligence periods, things like that. That's what they consider in the terms. And then your contingencies are conditions, meaning if this happens, then I can get my earnest money back. Let me back up. Earnest money, that is the amount of money that you put to say, hey, I'm offering this on this house, and here's some money to go along with it to say I'm serious about this offer. Earnest money can be anything from $1. It can be I've seen, well, not lately, but there have been some cases where deals in the past had like jewelry or possessions or whatever. A lot of that stuff is older. People want cash these days, so they don't want to hear about your little antique ring you got from your grandmama 13 years ago. But that can be used. There is no hard and fast rule about earnest money unless the seller does stipulate in their listing that they are looking for a certain amount. Generally, earnest money is 1% of the offer price. So if you're offering $200,000 on a house, if that's what your offer price is, then what would your earnest money be at 1%?
$2,000.
$2,000. Y'all are mathematicians and scholars. I love it. I love it. So yeah, so that'll be $2,000. Now, if you want to make a stronger offer, you would go more than $2,000, maybe $3,000 or $4,000. Some people put $10,000 if they really, really want it. That amount does get credited back to you at closing. Your lender can explain where that falls in. It probably will offset your down payment money, right, Chandra? A little bit.
Say which one? I'm sorry.
They do a higher earnest money amount that they get credited for it at closing, and it kind of offsets.
Yeah, they get credited at closing. It can apply towards the down payment or the closing costs.
Right. So you're just paying it a little bit earlier.
Correct.
And then the other contingency, we talked about the earnest money. Earnest money is what you're protecting. So if you've offered this $2,000, you want to know, if you don't go through with the sale of this house, how do I get that $2,000 back? It's two ways. First way is your due diligence period. Due diligence is the period from the time the offer is accepted and binding, meaning the seller has accepted it and your agent has received notice that they've accepted it, to the end of your due diligence period. Generally, it used to be anywhere from 7 to 14 days. Now in this market, people are waiting.
What, 3 days? 3 days?
They're waiving it completely sometimes.
Oh, wow.
The minimum I ever recommended was 3 days, because I always feel like you need to have some time to say, wait a minute, hold up, I lost my mind for a minute, give my money back. And that's just it. That due diligence period is the time when you get your inspection done, your home inspection, which I recommend for every house. You need to have somebody who's qualified, licensed, and bonded to inspect the house. I'm not talking about your granddaddy who's been building houses for 13 years in South Carolina. I'm not talking about, the person down the street that says that they just bought a house 15 years ago and they know everything they can because they just updated their kitchen. No, I'm talking about somebody who is licensed, bonded, and insured as a home inspector to give you a full assessment of what's going on with that house. It's made to protect you as the buying public. You don't want to buy a lemon. You don't want to buy a house that looks like lipstick on a pig. That's what my granddad used to call it. That's lipstick on a pig right there, baby girl. Don't get that. That meant that it looked good to you, but it wasn't good for you, right? So you want to have that house inspected. And during that due diligence period, if for any reason, you don't even have to tell what the reason is. You can say, I changed my mind. I want my money back. I want to terminate. And then we terminate it within that time period. As long as it's within that time period, we can get your earnest money back. Outside of that, child, you lost your money. The other time,
you better hope you got a finance contingency.
The only other time you can get it back is your financial contingency. And what that is, that's the time period that your lender, Chandra, because she's going to be your lender, right? Okay, little mind game there. Chandra's going to have a certain time period to get you approved for your mortgage, right? Generally, it's at the minimum 21 days for the minimum. Sometimes we can stretch it out a little bit longer, but in this market, time is of the essence. The sooner the better. So anytime, she has to give you an official denial letter, however, for you to be able to get your earnest money back. Okay. That means that, say you did go out and buy this car or whatever, she's going to deny you and you get that letter, you get your earnest money back if it's within that financial contingency period. Okay. Next step, of course, is, what is going on again? The repairs, negotiating repairs in the home. This is the option period that we were talking about. It's also called the due diligence period. 1 to 10 days on an offer is general. That inspection should expose anything going on in that house. Most of my inspection reports are at least 60 pages from cover to cover. They are looking at everything from structural, electricity, plumbing, safety hazards, HVAC, you name it about the house, from the Rudy to the Tootie. They are looking at it and they're going to report out to you. It is the inspector's job to point out every potential thing that may be an issue. They're going to look at the age of your appliances. They're going to look at the age of your systems. They're going to look at the wiring to make sure it's up to code and point out things. If you get an appraisal, inspection report that's like 5 pages, fire that inspector and check and make sure that they actually are a good inspector, because you can't get a house inspection without at least 40 to 60 pages. And of course, you pay for the inspection yourself. That's one of the upfront costs that you have. So expect that. What they're looking at is not the small stuff, but they're going to put it on the report. They're going to show you everything. I mean, if it's a crack on the outside or the top of the house, they're going to use a drone to look at the roof most times if they're not physically going up there and giving you pictures. And they give you pictures of everything so that there's proof on that day that this was an issue or it was not an issue. Okay? It's for your own protection. And then the final step, once we've gotten through all of that, the appraisal is going to come in and it's going to be above what we need, amen, and you're going to close and actually be a homeowner. It's the best day in the world. Things you need to think about prior to closing is you need to budget for additional expenses. Stuff always happens. You need to have that 2 to 3% of the loan amount for closing costs. You need to have your earnest money should have already been turned in, because you turned that in with your acceptance of your offer. Your option period money should have already been paid for, but that's going to be your inspections, if you have to get a termite letter, things like that. All of that's in, I hate that. All of that stuff is in there. If you're going to get a survey, that's if you're doing land, basically a land only purchase, you want a survey, or if it's some contested area where the neighbor thinks that something is a part of their land, but it's really not, and there's a question about it, you want a survey done so you know exactly where those property boundaries are. And then there's always miscellaneous stuff. The lender may call you and say, wait, those numbers changed. I need you to bring $500 extra to the table. It does happen. You also need to be prepared to pay your upfront fees, which will be your homeowner's insurance and taxes. That's always paid up front. And then, of course, you're going to do that final walkthrough of the house just to make sure anything that was negotiated to be repaired has been done. You're in love with it. It's as you said it was. Everything is in agreement, and you do that final walkthrough of the home prior to closing. At closing, you're going to bring your certified funds, evidence of your insurance, and of course your ID. You're going to get a settlement statement. That's your information that says what went on in this transaction, who paid what, how much was paid, all of that. They're going to ensure that you have a clean title that has been transferred into your name. And of course, you get the keys to your new home. Well, in this day and age, sometimes it's a code, but because they have those electronic keypads on the doors, but you understand, you get possession of the home at that point. Are we ready to go and buy a house now? Do we have some more questions? Are we ready to get started?
That was a lot.
It was. And there's still so much more I could share, but I tried to condense it so that it made sense for the basic highlights. And of course, if you want to get in touch with Chandra and myself, here's our information. And again, I'll share this with Krista so she can have it for you guys reference later. Any questions right now?
Ladies, this is your chance. Ask your questions.
Hi, my name is Kelly. I have a question.
Okay, Kelly, go ahead.
Hi, I was looking to get a home, I guess like 2 years ago, and my pops was telling me to wait because of the market and because of COVID and how everything was kind of chaotic. The question I'm having is it mandatory that you pay off your student loans so your credit can be top notch?
No.
Okay.
No. So, and maybe you missed it because I did cover it earlier. So when it comes to the student loans, it depends on your loan type. We count 1% of your student loan balance in your debt to income ratio if you're using the government loan, FHA. So depending on your income and what other debts you have, sometimes that may be a challenge. So then what I advise people, if that is the case, then work on increasing your credit score, cleaning up your credit, and then apply for a conventional loan. It's a harder loan to qualify for, and you need a higher score. But with the conventional loan, whatever your student loan payment is based upon your income, if you get a letter from the student loan people with that in writing, we can use that versus the 1%. So if based upon your income is 0, then we count 0. If based upon, you know, your thing is $100, we count $100, whatever it is based upon your income.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And one thing I will say is that your daddy told you wrong. If you would have went ahead in the marketplace right now, you probably would have had some better options as far as housing inventory is concerned. Like I said, we never stopped in real estate for COVID at all, not even one day. The day that everything was shut down in the pandemic, I was out showing a house virtually. And those people are in their house now. So the market is the market. Like I said in the beginning, when you are ready, the market is ready. Are you going to get a deal in this market? Maybe. Depends on your faith. I mean, do you believe in God? Do you believe God has what's for you is for you? Then it's your time. But you know, it's not an easy process, I would say, but it's tedious. It is highly tedious. I will say that. It is nitpicky because when you get to talking with me and I'm like, look, now we got this house. It doesn't hit all of your hot spots, but it's got the top 5 instead of all 30 that you have. Is that going to be something you can live with or not? So you have to make those hard and fast decisions. And it's a little bit scary. And then the other part is Chandra and her underwriter, which we never know who the underwriters are. They just are called the underwriters and they are evil people.
Alrighty.
You mean you need an explanation of why I got $100 from my auntie? 13. I mean, it's on there. I got it. It's not income. It's just money. It was a gift. But you got to explain stuff like that. So you have to be prepared for the little nitpicky stuff. Is it hard?
Correct.
No, it's just tedious and it's very stressful because it's a whole lot of money. You know, this is probably the largest purchase you will make in your entire life is when you sit down and write your name 50,000 times, 50 or less times, as we say, on a piece of paper.
That's a lot of paperwork.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of paperwork.
I just did a refinance. I just took my packet upstairs and my packet was at least, let me see if I can get my finger to show, this thick. It was like, I know I signed it at least 70 times, at least. And then some of the documents there are multiple copies of, so you have to sign an initial and date. So your hand will hurt a little bit after closing.
and down payment assistance is double the stack because now you got one for the regular plus one for the down payment assistance.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I mean, but is it worth it? I think so.
Of course.
It gives me some peace of mind that I don't have to ask anybody, can I paint the wall or can I add something on the porch except the HOA? You know,
and I just want to add, on top of what Brandy is saying, it's definitely worth it because when COVID hit, people that own property had options versus people that didn't. People that rented, if they got left from their job, you know, they were praying that their landlord gave them grace and didn't put them out. Whereas people that had property had options. They could sell their property and they could take funds and do something else. They could refinance, take some of the equity out with cash to help them through until they got another job or got back on their feet. They had options. And so property puts you in a position to have options versus when you rent, like she says, you're going to pay your mortgage or you're going to pay somebody else's mortgage.
Okay, you guys have gave me a whole lot of information.
Great, Kelly. Right,
Awesome.
right.
My first time buying a home and my last.
Hey, that's all right. That's all right. We want you to buy 1,000,000 houses and be the landowner of Atlanta if you can.
Hey, we start with house number 1. Once you get that one, you'll be ready for number 2 in a few
That's
years.
right. That's right. You'll get bitten by the bug. You'll be like, ooh, how can I pull out some money to invest in some other property and do this? It's definitely addictive. It's definitely addictive. Great question, Kelly.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Miss Masson?
I have
Miss
a question.
showing us on her camera. I love it.
Hold on, Miss Kathy had her hand up.
Okay.
Hi, I had a question, and I'm sorry if y'all covered this because I did sign in on late, so I may have missed it. But my question was, what is included in the closing costs, the money that you have to bring to closing? Because I know it includes the down payment, but what else is it? Because it just seems like it's so much money you have to come up with when you go for closing, other than the down payment, which is a lot sometimes too.
So just to keep the term straight, down payment is different than closing costs. So down payment is your portion of the funds that you're contributing towards the purchase price of the property. So that's down payment. Closing costs includes the lender fees, it includes the appraisal, it includes the fees for the closing attorney, it includes the fees for the transfer tax that the state of Georgia or your county charges to record the deed and to transfer the property from your name to someone else. Also included in that is you have to pay the first year's homeowner's insurance up front for the first year, and then they start your escrow, which are called sometimes your prepaids, which means because your property tax and homeowner's insurance are included in your mortgage payment, depending on when you close, they want to make sure they have enough funds to be able to pay the homeowner's insurance when it's due next year, or to pay the property tax when it's due. So those are all the things that are typically included in your closing costs, which is different than your down payment.
All right,
Did
thank
that answer
y'all.
your question?
Thank you. Yes, that answers my question because I know it's different than the down payment. That's, what my question was. What else other than the down payment that, is included in the closing costs? So yes, you answered that for me. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, we have
You're
Lakeisha
welcome.
next. Lakeisha, go ahead.
Hi, I was like to know, how would I know if my home would be a good investment property?
Are
So
you
you
looking
currently
for
own a home?
Excuse me?
I said you currently own a home?
No, I don't, but I was
Oh.
looking at my first home. Like I looking to buy my first home, but I also was looking to turn it into investment property down the line.
Okay, I'll let Brandy answer that.
Thank you, Chandra. That was so nice of you. So this could go a couple of ways. Generally speaking, when you buy a home, the lender is expecting you, based on your loan type, to be an owner occupant. So like, for example, FHA homes, you have to occupy the home as the owner within 60 days of closing, right? And they don't allow you to rent out the house, so to speak. But there are some ways around that. One way is to buy a duplex or a quad, which you can get an FHA loan for, but you would use the other plexus, let's call it that, if it's duplex, the other side, so to speak, to probably cover the mortgage. The rent on that would cover the mortgage. That's a little bit different, a little bit of a 2.0 conversation and not a this level conversation where we are, but generally that's where it is. Otherwise, I believe you have to go into conventional financing, right, Chandra, in order to do an owner not occupied type of loan, correct?
That is correct.
I
That is
thought
correct.
so.
But I mean, some people purchase the property as a primary resident and stay in it for a period of time, and then turn it over into a rental. People do that, but initially you do need to stay in the property.
But to make sure I understood that clear, you said the conventional loan, that's the loan that will allow me to turn it into a rental property, correct?
There are some conventional loan programs where you can do an investment property purchase. Yes,
It's gonna,
it just depends.
and it's gonna require more money down.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right,
Great
thank you,
question, Lakeisha. I like the way you're thinking. I love it. I love it. Let's get some investments going.
All right, we got somebody else with their hand up. We have Miss Masanya.
Okay, so good evening.
Good evening.
So my question is, well, let me give a little backstory. So first, my name is Masanya, and I was looking for homes last year, not last year, 2000. Yeah, I did look at some houses last year, but 2018 and 2019, I was looking at homes. I was specifically looking in the Clayton County area with my boyfriend. And the goal is for him to buy the house and just add me on the deed because we're not married. All right. So plus it will work out better based on his credit and his income. All right. Do you think that it's bothersome to look at the school system heavily when you're looking for a home? Because that's been our biggest gripe. So Krista is from that area, went to school out there, but currently where they are in Clayton County, I don't trust it for my 10-year-old when she starts middle school. So, and I live downtown, and our school system isn't the best, but it's doing better than what Clayton County is doing. So I was looking at Clayton County, Fayetteville, Clayton County, and Fayette County. Fayette County. And of course, as soon as you go over County Line Road, the same home, same square footage goes up $40,000 and more. Same exact houses. They look the same. Everything's the same. They just go up $40,000 more. And I think that's because of the school system.
Correct. You're 100% correct.
Location. That is the one big thing about the determinant for prices of houses is the location. Okay. The school district is one of the things that most people who are in an area, they're looking for a specific school, not just the district. But then again, you have other people that say every school has a valedictorian and a salutatorian. Every school, you're going to need to be, involved as a parent in order for your child to thrive. It's really what your comfort level is. But you're exactly right, Masania, that yes, you go over one little line, imaginary line in the sand, so to speak, and it's a price change, and it's huge, and it's gigantic, and it doesn't make any sense really, but truth be told, that's what the market is paying for, so that's why that price difference is there. There's more perceived value in that school system than in that area than the other.
There's a race.
And also,
I see difference there.
I found.
I'm sorry, that was one of those areas that I said I can't talk about, but Chandra might be able to talk about it. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
So what I was gonna say is also I found when I was looking, the closer you get to 285, the more expensive the house is gonna be, versus the further away you get from 285, you get more house for your money. So if you're willing to make the drive, you can normally get more house for your money. Have you found that as well, Brandy?
Well, that used to be absolutely the case. They call it ITP versus OTP. Now that is changing a little bit too, because let's be honest, there's no more land being made in the US. The land is the land, they're just cutting it up and further subdividing it. And when you get into older areas, you're gonna have more areas because of that time, land was plentiful or whatever. But if you get into a newer community, you're gonna have your smaller lots unless you go a little bit further out. And I do mean a little. One thing that I saw recently, I had a client that was considering Conyers, but then we moved out to Covington because they had a larger lot size. And Covington qualifies for USDA. Conyers doesn't. So, things like that. Locust Grove, same thing. But, You have to be willing to have that. If you don't have inner city driving requirements or trans city driving requirements, meaning going from the south side to the north side or the east side to the west side or the south side to the northeast side, then those things aren't really an issue for you. In this day and age of most people now being able to work from home, that's become one of the things that isn't such an issue anymore. So people are willing to go out a little bit further. And then you may come across some of the more desirable school districts or schools in doing so as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think like for me, for instance, I did grow up in Clayton County in the 90s. Of course, by the time I graduated high school, it was 2002 before the county started to go downhill. But and my mom, when I say my mom, she was a police officer. She just retired 2 years ago. She retired as a major with Clayton County Police. So she saw the crime. She saw how things were changing with gentrification, and then after Hurricane Katrina, and so we ended up moving to Henry County, and she's been in that Henry County area since I think 2006 now. And I mean, even I stayed there a few years ago, and I was driving from Henry County to Peachtree Corners for one of my jobs, one of my internships. Yeah, I mean, I got the Peach Pass now, but ooh, when that lane ain't open for you to go the opposite, you know, it's just bad. So, but I know the back streets, so it helps. But I was just looking at how they've built up even more, especially off exit like 221 and 218. All those shopping centers out there now. Traffic is just always horrible. It doesn't even have to be a holiday. It's just bad. But the houses, for instance, are going up. You know, her house, the neighborhood we live in, they're actually still building houses in that neighborhood for some reason. You would think they'd be finished by now, you know, 12 years later, but they're still building houses. Property taxes have definitely went up over there. You know, it was like, it used to be $1,200 a year, and now it's like, you know, almost $1,600 a year. And I'm like, I don't know if I want that. And then I don't want to be in a homeowners association. You know, I want one of those resale houses. I want something out here in Tucker, you know, a brick house that's, you know, like a little bit older, and I know it could withstand a tornado. I have a thing about tornadoes. So when it comes to looking for homes, I need something that stands the test of time. I don't want new construction, nothing that's going to blow over with the wind. You know, I'm just really big on that. So I know for me, it would be a little bit harder to try and find a house because I'm set. Like, no new construction. I want something that's all brick, that's older, you know, and it may need renovations. I watch too much Property Brothers. I'm sorry, but I'm just an HGTV junkie. I'm like, I want everything a certain way. So I know mine.
You gotta migrate away from Property Brothers over to Mike Holmes. Homes Inspections. That's the one you want to watch, because that's the one that's going to tell you about inspections and code and what happens when you get a bad contractor that does something by hook or crook, so to speak, instead of the right way, and what it takes to remediate it. That's the one I recommend. Property Brothers is good because it opens your mind to different options, right?
Yeah, the possibilities.
And anything can be built. Anything. You just got to have the money and the mindset. Anything can be fixed. It's just how much it's going to cost.
Yeah. Because some of the builders, I've noticed, even in the subdivision my mom moved in 2006, when we were first looking at the houses that had just been built, my uncle was like, look at the foundation, look at these cracks. You know, we were looking at different things. And her house was fine, but our next door neighbor's house, her dishwasher, the kitchen, it was just a little off. It wasn't quite level. The doors, it was just really off. And I'm like, you know, who goes behind the builders and make sure that they did things correctly? You know, they don't seem to get penalized for anything.
Oh, Krista, you are going to my new commercial, because that's one of the things I tell my new construction buyers. They think that just because I'm buying a brand new house, I don't have to have it inspected. And that is one of the things that I preach to my new construction buyers. No, you're going to get that house inspected in 3 phases before you actually buy it. You want it when they pour the foundation, before they close up the walls, and you want one done once they get everything done, because you want to be able to say at every point, this is right, this isn't right, and then you want to be able to go back to your builder with somebody's certified expertise to say, no, this isn't quite right. Not your uncle who might have been in construction. I mean, yeah, they have a good eye, but your builder is not going to really listen to that. You have to have somebody that has those credentials in order to get that really, really accommodated. But you're exactly right. It just depends. I mean, that's just like they used to say, never buy a car that came off the line on a Monday or a Friday, because that's when people were tired. They really didn't want to be there, and they kind of half do their job, so to speak, sometimes, and they may miss some things in the rush of the day. Anything can happen. Everything is built by man or woman, so to speak. Mistakes can happen. Is there such thing as a perfectly built house? No, there's not. You're gonna have issues. One of my inspectors, he's done 1 million inspections for my clients. I don't even tell my clients who to choose. I give them a list. Most people end up choosing him. I'm not sure why, but they do. I even tried changing them up in my list order as to where they are, and they still pick him. I'm not sure why, but he'll tell you all concrete is gonna crack. It's gonna crack. Whether it's a detrimental crack or not, that's a different story. But that's something that he would be able to tell you. I can't tell you that because I'm not an inspector. I can tell you what I've seen, and it might be a problem, but don't listen to me because I'm not a builder. I'm a realtor. Okay. Great questions and insight. Any other questions? All hearts and minds clear for now? Oh, Miss Trailer, where you going to get us some dinner?
You know what? While you playing, that's exactly where I'm going, to the grocery store for these kids. That's exactly where I'm going, to the grocery store to make some tacos.
Ooh, that sounds great.
Sounds good,
great.
right?
We are all coming over. What address? Just text us the address, girl. We'll be there.
Y'all ain't trying to play with that traffic.
Come the street way.
Y'all not trying to come that Greater Curve traffic.
No, I know the back streets. I'm
yeah, me
a
too.
semi-Atlanta native. I can get there. No, I'm kidding. So, guys, I really appreciate the chance for Chandra and I to come and present to you and answer some of your questions and dispel some of the myths about home buying. If you have any questions, you definitely reach out to Krista and get this presentation and get our contact information. Be glad to answer any questions. It doesn't cost to talk to me or Chandra.
Correct.
Just gotta reach out and we'll do our best to help because that's, after all, what we're in business to do. Both of us, we're really about helping and educating folks on getting into, real estate and getting your finances where they need to be.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much for doing this. And I know that this is being recorded for us to watch it again later, but I hope that you guys do another live session soon and maybe make it consistent where people can just know that it's something that always happens for us to come and listen to, because repetition deepens the impression. And I know that although I will get a home with my boyfriend, I intend to have 2 homes of my own. So I can learn and do some things just from hearing it over and over again until I'm ready and I'm like, okay, ready, set, go. So thank you guys so much for this. Thank you,
I have to use your
Krista.
quotes. Give me that quote again. Repetition breeds what?
Repetition deepens the impression.
Deepens the, I'm about to write that down. It's going to be a part of my repertoire.
Yeah, repetition deepens the
I'm
impression.
gonna say one of my good client friends gave me this one.
Repetition deepens the impression. So basically, you hear it over and over again. It's gonna stick. It'll stay with you, and you'll be able to regurgitate it to somebody that's in kindergarten. The other thing that I plan to do is my son will be graduating high school next year. And I would like for him to do what I wasn't able to do, which is purchase a home by the time he's 22. So I've never purchased a home. My credit isn't great. My income isn't great. However, I know that I'm setting him up where he'll have those things. So thank you guys so much.
It's doable. I purchased my first home at 21. So yeah, it can be done. I was a dumb little married girl, but I did it. Oh, he gave him to somebody else, girl, but no, it is doable. We have actually a couple of people in my old office that have done that with their kids, basically bought homes in their names. They can't really buy it as a minor in the state of Georgia because they can't sign a contract, so to speak, but you can buy it in trust and things like that before they are 18. But yes, it absolutely can be done. It's the best gift ever. There are so many stories of folks that had property around like the AU Center and Georgia Tech that I know personally that their parents bought, you know, a $20,000 home or $30,000 home 20 years ago, and now it's over there sitting over there worth 300,000, you know, because property appreciates. It's very rarely that property depreciates. It always appreciates in value. And like Chandra said, it gives you so many options for leverage long term. You know, I just refinanced. I could have pulled money out of my house. I didn't, but I had the option to do so. And that's the part I think is so important, is to have options. We always get boxed into these places because we don't have the knowledge or the option to do something different. But when you have an asset, a true asset that's appreciating in value, you can use it and leverage it to do whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do. So I'm so glad we were here to join. Yes, we are. I know I can speak for myself and probably speak for Chandra. We are available to do this again if need be, time permitting, of course, but whenever you'd like to do it, Krista, we can certainly set something up.
Okay, all right. We'll look at possibly doing something in the end of July or August, I think. Yeah, August might be good. We have some more workshops coming up as well for the ladies, so some great things coming. So thank you, ladies, so very much. I really appreciate both of you for coming on and joining us tonight and dropping all of these gems, because we had so many questions, and this was such helpful information that we can even go out and share with people that we know and love, to help them with the process as well. So thank you from SWAV, thank you from Aid Atlanta. We appreciate both of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, bye.
Have a good night.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.